Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of the Harvest Season. My name is Al,
My name is Kevin.
and we're here today to talk about cottagecore games, woo, and also one
Woo!
that's very much not a cottagecore game. Well, two games that are
Like,
very much not a cottagecore games.
well, I, I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know which one you're referring to, but if you're referring to our main one, how could you say it's not? It has both Dave the Diver and Stardew Valley.
I mean, I feel like there's debates as to whether Dave the Diver is cottagecore, but anyway, let's not get into that right now.
There's
We
farming. How could it not be?
well, we are here to talk about Balatro. Now, why are you talking about Balatro? You might say it's not a card score game. Well, they added a Stardew pack to it. That's why we're talking about it.
That is the sole reason. I mean,
Also, because
let's
me and
let's be
Kevin both
real.
were playing it, and it felt like an
Yep.
easy episode to do. So that's what we're
Also,
doing.
and let's not forget the real reason, right? Are not roguelites, etc., runner up on this on the show?
Oh yes, we're here
It
today to
was
talk about
inevitable.
roguelites.
Woo! Every time you play this episode, it's a different opening.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, so we're gonna talk about Balatro. Before that, obviously, we have a good chunk of news. But first of all, Kevin, what have you been up to?
I have been up to not terribly a lot. This week has been particularly busy and tumultuous, let's say.
That's a good
uh
word.
yeah,
Not a
yeah,
good
it is.
situation, but a good word.
No. I won't get into it here. You can ask elsewhere if you want. It's not not a fun time. But anyways, what little game time I have? I mean, my usuals. Marvel Snap continues to be good. I enjoying the cards that have come out more or less. They're decent. They're not game breakers. I like the wolf. It's another Loki Asgard Norse mythology theme month, and we get stuff like Freya, the Fenris Wolf, Malekith. I'm having fun with it. Thanos got a buff recently, and I've been playing the Thanos deck with Surtur, and I've
Yeah.
been having a lot of fun with it. I like Thanos and his whole gimmick with summoning the stones and the strats. You can go with that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's definitely a
yeah,
fun
you've been
deck.
playing. It is, yeah. Um, it's maybe not the highest risk, high reward, but it can be easily stomped on. You know, you got your
Mhm.
Shang-Chi's, you got a lot of counters for it running around because Surtur's been pretty popular since the season passed.
Yeah.
You've been playing too, haven't you, Al?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a bit more on and off this season. But yeah, still enjoying it. I'm still running my Black Panther uh symbiote deck.
That's
Um
it is such a solid one. Like the symbiote Spider-Man really added a inch of consistency, I think, to that
yeah,
deck
yeah,
that was
yeah.
really needed.
Yeah, it has. I mean, its main issue is Shang-Chi, which is obviously more common now, as you say, with the Surtur deck, which is causing me a bit of a
Yep.
problem. And the other issue is just everything needs to go right. Like
Yeah.
if you don't, I mean, there are ways around it, right? Like
Yeah, there's a couple of backup strategies, but the
there
bread and
are,
butter has to be done in a very
yeah, and
certain
a
order,
and a,
definitely.
and a lot of the backups require Wong, and the problem is that everybody seems to have a rogue, so they just steal your Wong, um, which
Uh,
is not great. But yeah, it's
uh,
still it's getting me there. I'm still stuck in my 70s because that's where I always seem to
uh,
get stuck.
set, you know what? It's not just you. I am also stuck in the 70s. I don't know what it is, if it's like, I, it's probably something to do with like, the bell curve and whatnot, right? Like
Yeah,
70s feels like this is where a lot of the dedicated players are, right? And probably the largest population, it feels like.
yeah, probably.
It is it's a lot. I don't blame you at all. Because I'm there too.
I hope to get up to 80 pretty soon then I can have some actual time to focus on the 90 to 100 because I suspect I'll get
Yeah.
to 90 very quickly because that does, once you hit 80 it's like you zoom up to 90, but then the 90 to
Oh yeah.
100 takes a lot of work as well. So I'd
Yep.
really
The
like to
sec.
be able to get
Yeah.
there this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I get that.
the usual with that.
Yeah. So yeah, Snap's good. Aside from that, a lot of my usuals. I log into Zenless on Zero frequently at night, and I'm still playing that daily with Calvin because I don't know, I like to punish myself. A lot of the time this week, though, was dedicated to the wrapping up of Bowser's Inside Story, the third Mario and Luigi game. You can check out my full review on Rainbow Road Radio, the Mario themed podcast I do with our mutual friend Alex. um, but that game is so good. It's the Bowser part of the game that sends it over the top, right? Because it has the Mario and Luigi, foundations, and that's pretty solid, right? You can obviously not everyone's a fan of it, like the dynamic blocking and timing and all that. And I think actually this one is a little more intense than other some of the other entries, but the Bowser stuff is so well done. Obviously, everyone knows I'm a huge Bowser fanatic, but they just translated him so well. You feel like you're playing as Bowser, the big boss, who does the big attacks, and he's ridiculous and charismatic and overconfident. It's so much fun. Um, yeah, hearty thumbs up for that one for sure. But yeah, that I think is roughly what I've been up to. Oh, yes, that's what I've been up to. But I mean, I don't know when folks might hear an update on this, but Al, I've been getting an itch. I think I want to do a shiny hunt. I'm scared.
What for?
I don't know. I've been looking, hemming and hawing. There's a couple of hunts I never got to, like one in Sword and Shield for Valerian Meowth, the shiny gold kitty.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I might go for that. But Micah, was streaming just this week. He's been streaming again late in the past week and might be on. Shout out to Micah. He's got a little podcast he does now with a about shiny hunting actually. So
Yeah.
I'll have to look up the name. I forget the name off the top of my head. I feel bad. I'll find it and then shout it out. But yeah, that's really what's been getting to me. But
It
like
is
I said, that is
called
yet to happen.
it's called the soft
Uh,
reset.
Soft reset. Thank you very much. There you go. So go check that out. There's only like two episodes. There's not any regular schedule. But Micah's always a joy to listen to, so always happy to tune into. What about you, El? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, I obviously talked about Snap, so I've been playing that. I've been playing Pocket, although the last week that's mostly just been open some packs, and that's about it because um the events that we're running are mostly finished now. There's another Wonder Pick event, but that doesn't take a lot of extra time. It's not one of the battle events. Um, but yeah, I'm very much at the end point of the current set. So
Okay.
it's pretty much like I've got maybe like five normal cards to get, and then just a bunch of the secret rares, which takes a long time to get them because they're very rare. Um, I think most of them are like 1% chance each
Oh,
uh,
goody. Of
each
course.
deck.
Gotta, I say to someone who just talk about shiny hunting, gotta pull that slot machine, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, there was a person on Reddit who posted saying that they'd completed the set and it took them $1,500 to do it.
oh, oh, that hurts. That hurts.
And you're like, oh my word,
Like,
that is insane. Like I cannot imagine spending $1,500 on digital trading cards.
see, I could, okay. I mean,
Well, okay, fine.
I,
It depends on how much
no,
money you have.
no.
If you're a billionaire,
Well,
sure, you
sure,
can.
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
sure.
sure.
In that situation, I could
Yeah,
justify it,
yeah,
right?
but not even that, right? Like, of course, the layman, it's ridiculous, right? But what I was going to say is, like, I don't, specifically on Pocket is what blows my mind because, well, I don't know, maybe I say this like, the functionality obviously Live is, the standard card game, I think leans a little bit more heavier into the actual playing of the game, right? And since that goes hand in hand with the physical card game, I think that would be a little more sense, or I'd be understand it a little more because, people are invested there because it's the competitive nature on it and whatnot. And I mean, Pocket does have that, but it doesn't, I think, emphasize it as much.
I don't get the difference between that. Like, yeah, sure, technically live is more battle focused. However,
Yeah.
like they're both, a little digital walled garden, right? And they both
Yeah.
have battles, they both have collections.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
one is a better app. It is more enjoyable to play Pocket than it is to play live. Live is just a
True.
bad app.
True. And you know what? Actually, I take it back because Pokemon, the card game, is cheap relatively compared to other card games because the rarity, the high money cards are just alternate arts generally speaking, right? Like
Yeah.
they're the pretty arts or whatever, right? Other card games, that's not necessarily the case. Rare cards are very good and strong, but only printed at high rarities, so people will spend big money on that. Um, so you know what? I take it back. No, I don't get how you spend 15 out of pocket. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
Probably
a
gonna
lot
write it as a
of money.
tax write-off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Business
I
expense.
suspect they're just a person who works in tech and they're single, they have no kids. So because they work
Oh,
in tech, they have a lot of money and they have nothing else to spend it on except themselves.
oh,
So
oh, I have, if any listeners out there happen to be in such a situation, hit me up. I could certainly give you a few recommendations on how to use that money.
I mean,
I know a guy
well,
who
this
needs a
is
new
yeah.
car.
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, there are a lot of, young single people in the US with very high salaries and very little else to
Yep.
do with them, um,
I mean,
especially with remote working.
that does explain the large amount of Teslas I see in the area.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. I judge people differently depending on which Tesla they have. Because if they have one of the original Teslas, sure, fine. You had a decent amount of money and
Oh,
you
right.
wanted to buy a decent electric car. There wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
If you have a
Okay. You know what?
Cybertruck, if you have a
Yeah, I was
Cybertruck, you
about
are a
to say.
terrible human being.
Yeah. No, 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 no. I was about to say that. Yeah. A correction. I meant the large amount of Cybertrucks I see
Yeah,
in the area. Because you're right.
yeah.
Yes. No, like there is a market for this, the earlier Teslas or whatever, especially early on, right? Yeah, absolutely. But like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really feel
Cyber.
sorry for the people who bought the first Teslas and now they look like Elon lovers. Oh boy.
Oh, oh
Anyway, so
boy.
yeah, Snap Pocket, and I've also been playing quite a bit of Fields of Mystria. So may or may not have a reason for that, and may or may not talk about that in a future episode. We'll
Oh,
see.
oh, oh.
But yeah,
Okay.
no, been playing through that. It's interesting
Okay,
because
wait, hold on, I have to look it up. There's many. Okay, here it is. Yeah, the 90s anime looking one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I got it. All right. Okay. That's interesting. I'm keen to hear thoughts on that from some people maybe in the future. Who knows, you never know.
maybe no promises, never promises.
Oh, I'll promise you all the time. Boy, those are some pretty anime people in Fields of Mischief. Do you like Sailor
Yes.
Moon and 90s anime? Because there you go. There's all your shoujos. You can
Yep.
basically see the sparkles.
Oh, yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about some news now. First up, we have Lens Island 1.0 has been delayed until mid 2025. They
Okay.
have said this is because the game is not quite complete. Now, interestingly, they didn't talk about it in a like, oh, it's just like too buggy or whatever, which quite often they talk about. But no, they specifically talked about how they don't feel like the story fully ties together properly, and it feels like it's
Mm-hmm.
missing something. And
Okay.
That's really interesting, and I really, I mean,
It
obviously,
is.
just in general, I think that we obviously respect delays. Delays are fine. Get your game
Yep.
working well. But this is a particularly interesting one because they could have done what Color Island did, which is just like we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna release, and we'll add more stuff later, and it'll feel
Story later. Yep.
incomplete. But so what?
Yep.
But they've not done that. They've decided, no, no, we want it to feel
Yeah.
complete. And I think that is absolutely the right way to do these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's a very tricky thin white line to walk because
Exactly.
right, because yes, I fully agree, right? They're looking at Coral Island, yes. They should have waited to release a more fully realized 1.0. There are a lot of games that do that, and that's not great, right? And then there's the other end of the spectrum, right? That feature
Mm.
creep and just perfectionism. Looking at
Yeah.
you, Silk Song, right? Like
Well, to be fair, we
they,
don't know the reason that Silk Song is delayed. Like it could be that, it
oh,
could be something else. We don't actually
okay,
know what the issue is with Silk Song. But
sure,
but
you're
there
right,
are
but
there there is
it's plausible.
Relegend is a good example of that
Yeah,
uh in this area, right? Like they
yeah.
just kept adding things and kept adding things and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also,
But
Sugar Dew
the way they
Island, which is a
framed it,
particularly bad one because they're adding extra features into the first version of early access. They're not even releasing their 1.0. They're releasing their
ah,
early access and they're like, "Oh, we want to wait until we've added romance." And you're like, "Oh, goodness me, it's
oh
an early
no,
access."
oh, oh, that's rough. Oh gosh, yeah, that's
So yeah,
well,
you're right. There
regardless,
absolutely is a fine line there, but I think this
yeah,
is on the right side of the line.
yeah, the
I
way
think
they
this is
framed
good.
it, and it's a good degree of self-awareness. Like I absolutely props to them for making that call. Assuming they're on the money with what they're saying. Um, So yeah, and obviously no shortage of other stuff to play, so no rush by any means.
Yes, my end of year was looking quite stressful. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for personally I would like to say thank you for delaying. Uh I do not
You
speak for
know what?
everybody.
You know what? I'd like to say thank you to someone else for delaying, Al. I'd like to thank Amber Isle for delaying their Switch release.
I thought you were disappointed by the Switch release being delayed initially.
Um, I was, but given where I am now, you know what? That's fine. I could use it in the new year. I have enough to keeping me on my toes.
So okay,
That's fine.
so context here is they was it the beginning of February sorry, the beginning of November that the Steam version came out, I think.
Yeah,
And
it
they
is
said
already
that
out, isn't it?
yeah, and they said the Switch release was delayed until later in November. And I feel like I remember us discussing this, Kevin, and saying that doesn't feel 2 weeks doesn't feel like a lot of extra time to do whatever it is they want to
Oh
do.
gosh, yes.
And I was theorizing that perhaps, I mean, we'll have to go back and check the transcripts, but I was theorizing that perhaps it might get delayed again, and it has been delayed again. It is now delayed till February of 2025, which is obviously quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Obviously complicated
Just
by Christmas, right? Obviously, it's not actually delayed by another 3 months. It's probably more
yeah.
like 2 months because December is a complicated time.
Yeah, absolutely. It is I will say like reading, when you put the link, you can see the link of their full explanation and whatnot. They will say they're aiming to have the Switch release to be at parity with the Steam release, right? Like all the updates and patches up to that point. So that's a little understandable. Uh, I get that. Sorry, I'm just reading it here. Oh, it's going to be on discount on Steam. That's nice. But yeah, I mean, the game is out, right? It's out on Steam. I want it on
Yeah.
Switch, of course, but that's understandable. Obviously, the Switch has a long history of not always being the easiest to port on. So yeah, take your time, I guess.
Yep. Cool. Sunhaven have announced their release dates for their other regions. So they'd announced the US release was on the 29th of the Americas release was the 29th of November. They've now also announced that the Japan, South Korea, and Hong Kong releases are also the 29th of November, um, which I love my conspiracies. I think this proves my point that they didn't understand there were multiple eShop regions.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. You know what?
why
You're
two separate
probably
announcements for the
right.
same day? Uh, just saying.
I 1000%. You're absolutely right. Oh,
And
that's good. Oh, that's oh, I mean, I feel bad for them because that's rough, but it's also really
oh, for
funny.
sure. Yeah, for sure. It's not amazing, but yeah, for sure it's and
Good for us. That's content.
well, true. They've also announced their Europe release date, which is the 16th of December. Um, Interestingly, they listed the countries that were it was releasing in, and it doesn't include. So I compared this list because I noticed it didn't have the UK in. So I was like, this is weird.
Mhm.
Why doesn't it have the UK in? And I compared this list to the list of countries that the eShop is available in Europe.
Oh,
And the only countries missing from it are Russia, which I feel like maybe the list of eShop regions probably isn't up to date, and I wouldn't be surprised if Russia isn't an eShop region anymore. Um,
uh-huh.
so that's one.
Wonder
And
why.
the other two are Switzerland and the United Kingdom, which people
Huh.
who understand European politics might go, oh, but they're both not in the EU. True. But Norway also isn't in the EU, but is in the list. Now, what is interesting about those two names is Switzerland and the United Kingdom. Do you see what's interesting about those two names?
Uh, no, I'm not seeing it.
They are
Tell me.
alphabetically after every other country in this list.
Wait. Oh,
I think they've copied and pasted the list and missed out the
sick,
last two.
sick. Oh, that's awesome. Good times. Oh, I love copy paste errors. Good times.
I don't know that
Very
for
good at
sure,
this, Detective
obviously.
Al.
We will see on the 16th of December what happens, especially if they don't, if they don't announce another, oh, no, it's UK and Switzerland, and it does come out, then I will be proved right again. We'll see. We'll see, but that is my theory. If in doubt, always go for the stupidest option.
Occam's razor, right?
Is that not Hamlin's razor?
Wait,
Occam's
Hamlin's?
razor.
Is there a different razor?
Occam's razor is the simplest explanation.
Yeah.
Hanlon's razor is um never attribute to
Oh,
malice what can be adequately explained by
attributed to.
stupidity.
Okay, okay, I see.
So it's not quite, yeah,
Um,
so it's not quite the same thing, but they are
sure.
very much
I
tied together because quite often the
Yep,
most obvious explanation is the stupidest one. But
absolutely.
I don't think
Yes.
it was the
Okay.
most obvious explanation in this case. The most obvious explanation is they're not releasing in the UK and Switzerland, but I don't think that's the case because I have never released a game on the eShop. But from what I understand, you cannot release within an eShop region to only specific countries within that region. I think you either
Yeah,
release to the
that'd
whole
be really
region
weird.
or not at all.
Yeah, that would be very weird if you did that. So yeah, I you're probably right.
So we will see. I do love I
Mm.
do love my conspiracy theories.
Yep, that's good stuff. Oh, I'm excited. Can't wait to see if you're proven right or wrong.
Next, we have Coral Island. They have released their quality of life 1.1b update. Um,
How does that name make you feel, Al? Not the 1.2 update,
I
but the
don't know if I want to
1.1B.
I don't know if I want to talk about it. It's
I can't wait for 1.1B.2.
well, so this is so here's the thing, right? So would you assume that 1.1 and 1.1a are the same thing then? Because there was no 1.1a, right?
I mean, like obviously, I would assume that's the case. Well, it's obvious. Like again, razoring it here, like they didn't expect to need a 1.1B,
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Like,
Also, just a thing. You could just call it 1.1.1 like most software development does. You don't have to be weird and annoying with it with your numbers. I don't
what?
understand how many times I have to moan about this before people actually start just numbering things sensibly. It oh
Look, I don't know if I talked about it on the show. obviously, like, yes, I'm in agreement that it's not great, and it- it's not the easiest problem to solve because, whatever, people have different ways of thinking and categories, whatever. In my opinion, like when naming files and keeping records is important and stuff I've done, and I always do. I just go off the date primarily. I go
That
with year,
that is
month,
fine.
day,
That is
and then
absolutely an
like
acceptable way to
point oh
release
one.
software as well, but it's also not what they've done. But I think the thing that drives me insane about this, I've never seen a letter in any of their version numbers before. I have never seen it. It's not like this is just the long continuation of it. They had 1.0 A, B, and 1.0
Yeah.
C, and one. No, they didn't. They've never done it before. So why
What
are we
if?
suddenly doing this? It just like
Okay. Now, all right. What do
they
you
then
want
released
moving forward?
they then
Do you
released the
want
hot
more letters, or do
they
you
did
just want this to be the sole ugly stepchild with the letter and every
nothing.
all future
I
updates?
want them to retroactively change it. And the thing that annoys me most about it is now they're releasing a couple of small hot fixes, which are called 1.1b-1229, which is
Oh,
obviously
sick.
1229 is obviously a build number. That's clear from that because then the next
Yep.
one is 1230, whatever.
Yep.
Sure. Like I just ugh. Like it's either give it the 1.2, but you obviously don't want it to be that to appear that big. Sure, fine. Although I would argue I don't think that that's a problem. But if you don't want it to be 1.2, that's fine. Just give it another number, right? You don't. It's just where is the letter coming from? It's just appeared and it's never been there before. And oh, okay, we're moving on. We're
Actually,
moving
Al,
on.
it's a hexadecimal.
Moving on. Um, this adds as the name rather than the number, which includes a letter, would suggest about quality of life improvements. So there's a daily goddess blessing. So every day you can get a blessing from the goddess. There's a new type of rock called a mystery rock, which break yields random things. They may yield ores, seeds, fish, insects, or occasionally monsters.
Monsters. Roar. That's
They've
fun. I kind of like that. I dig it.
they've
Just
also added
Pokemon Rock Smash.
they've also added fishing nets, which are a thing you can leave in the water and come back to fish. So I guess kind of like the crab pots, but I think it's for fish rather than crustaceans.
Okay.
They've also, and this is interesting to me, they've lowered the requirements for town rank A and B. So I suspect I will have jumped up a rank the next time I open the game because I was so close to a rank, and having it even slightly down will probably mean I've hit the next rank, which is nice.
Well, that's interesting for sure. Bounce patches for cottage core games. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Maybe just enough people like me were moaning that it takes so long to go up the town ranks.
Uh-huh.
I may or may not talk about how Fields of Mystria has a great turn rank system and really
Uh,
rewards you in a
oh,
much better way. But
oh.
I obviously would not be talking about that before the episode that we may or may not be talking about in. And finally, a
Ah,
great quality of life update removed the stamina cost for tools used without hitting a target.
okay.
If you're
How is that
walking
not the
around,
default in everything?
I have no idea. It's also the default in Fields of Mystria, which is fantastic. But yeah, why is this just not a thing? Because I think Stardew added it in one of its point updates. But it's like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, why do they all add it on later? It's
Well,
just it's a
uh,
really I guess it's kind of because they're trying to lean more to the realism thing, right? Like if you
don't
use if
disrupt my immersion, Al. When I
that's the
swing
thing,
the
if you
axe, I use the end.
exactly. And
I,
I understand that argument, but I also think it's important to remember that we play games because they're fun. And I would always lean to the fun over the
that is
realism.
very not true. What we say as Pokemon fans.
I still have fun with Pokemon games. I'm sorry you don't, but that's why I still play them and you don't.
um, but and you know what? All right, you know what? I'll even play their game. I will say actually hitting something with a shovel or an axe is probably more exhausting than just swinging in the air. So
Interesting,
either way.
interesting point. Interesting point.
It doesn't go through. It falls apart, is what I'm trying to say. Um, yeah.
We don't want to think about it too much.
What are you talking about? That's the entire point of this
Yeah,
podcast.
I know. I realized what was happening there as soon as I said what I said. And the last game update is Lightyear Frontier have announced their Trailblazer update, which is coming out on the 27th of November, which is the day this podcast comes out. So if you're listening to this, it's out. And it just seems to
Oh,
have one big thing, Kevin, which is your mech can now turn into a car. Well, I
yeah,
mean, it looks more like
which
a
is
tractor, but it's super
yeah,
fast.
it's that's interesting because uh like I'm a little torn on this because obviously a vehicle or whatever is very sensible in this sort of game, right? Absolutely. And it takes a lot of work, so I get it why it's not always out at release. Um, I'm just part of me is also of the mind that like because the mech like though it's just a car, the mech they just stick it on a car basically the top half of the mech. I don't know. I wish
I'm
part of me
assuming it
wishes
does a
that they could have
transformer type thing, surely, right?
I'd hope so, right? Or you never know. Maybe it just glows and transforms. You know, I don't know. But okay, if they have the whole animation of it transforming or whatever, fine. I guess I can take that. But like, couldn't you just also make the regular mech go faster or something? Rocket boosters? I don't know.
So
Um,
I suspect the idea behind this is that it's uh so oh yeah, no, I was going to say like this can be added as an upgrade over time so you
uh-huh,
don't get it at the beginning, but then I guess Rocket Booster would also work like that.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
yeah. But I mean that like that's maybe just a personal take. It's not no end of the world. Overall, it's a good thing. And again, in this kind of open world exploration, cars or vehicles or whatever is always great. And it is still connected to the mech. Maybe not exactly how I'd want it, but it is there. You're still inside the cockpit of the mech, which is a little weird, but yeah, there you are.
All right, we have another couple of updates that are not specifically regarding the games. And so the first one
Oh,
is
I'm here
Sakuna.
wringing my hands.
We have we have three pieces of news about Sakuna. The first one is
What?
that they're doing a new mobile phone game, um, but we don't know, and it's probably unlikely that we'll get an English language release of this. It looks like it's a very Japanese specific game.
Okay.
However, oh, sorry, yeah, we don't know
Wait,
anything about the
is
game.
sorry, I'm here. Is this all in the YouTube video? Because
The
from the
YouTube
the
video was the
blurb
different
you
game.
put, okay, okay, because that blurb, like, it's not clear that it's specifically a Sakuna game. I mean, that's very likely, right? But it's just from the developers, right?
They've specifically said it is a Sakuna game, I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
okay, they did. Okay, well, darn it. Yeah, we're not going to see this in the US. It's going to kill me, but we're not going to see it. Uh,
Well, we'll see. Well, you never know. You never know.
we
But
didn't get. There's a
more
lot of good ones we
exciting,
don't get.
more exciting for Kevin is
They're
that the
pleased
anime,
to announce a new episode of the Harvest season.
the anime is getting a season two.
Yeah. I'm so excited because well, I mean, I guess, well, oh, you know what? Let's talk about the next announcement because I
Okay,
think
yeah,
that's what the
sure,
season
fine.
two is.
That's fine. That's fine. There's also another new game coming called Sakuna Chronicles
Kokurawa.
Kokorowa Kokorowa
Kokorowa.
and the
Yep.
Gears of Creation. Um, I presume you've watched the video for this.
I am watching it right now. Hold on one sec. Is this the book? Is my first question because I know there was a book centered on Kokorowa. I don't know if this is an adaptation of that game.
I don't know.
Um, Let me see here. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We're actually getting a new Sakuna game. Um, okay, sorry. Hold on. Give me like 1 minute 27. Um, wow, a robot. Wow, is this? I don't know if these are cutscenes. Wow, the visuals already look way updated, which is
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Well,
Uh,
and obviously the big thing about this one is that there is an English language trailer. So I'd
yeah,
be very surprised if this game isn't being localized.
right. I mean, it has to, right? Because they're dubbing it, and we um clearly we did our job as influencers and brought Sakuna to the forefront again, which is why all this was announced.
Of course, of
Um,
course. My guess is
I'm
that this
very
will be a more crafting focused game rather than farming focused.
yeah, clearly because wow, like wait, is that her? Is there no who is that? What? Wait,
Are
okay,
you
so
referring to the green-haired one that gets off the boat?
yes,
Yeah, I don't know who that
okay.
is.
I would is that lady Take whatever it's the big lady I think maybe I forget her name
No, because
Takagiri.
we see her
No,
earlier in the trailer in her usual
yeah, but
form.
is it a small form of her? Because it really looks like her.
Don't know.
Like I'm thinking it is. She even has the pink Buddha thing. I don't know if it's her daughter or a chibi form of her or something. It's clearly related to her. It's clearly related to her. Um, the big thing I will say about this trailer, Sakuna is not in it.
Yes.
Um, it is all Kokorowa and a whole bunch of new faces,
Well,
which
to be fair, you don't know that she's not in it. She's not in the trailer.
well, yeah, I'm just saying she's not in the trailer. That's all
Yes.
I'm saying, right? Yeah, right, because I was about to say exactly right. She very well could be in the game, but they
I'd
did
be
not highlight that.
I'd be surprised if she wasn't. It's literally called Sakuna Chronicles. Now I know that
Oh,
the whole point is it's tying it to the first game, but like surely they can't not
Kokoro,
have her in it at all, right?
Kokoro and the Gears of Creation, a uh, a Knives Out
Sak
mystery.
yeah.
Oh, those movies are great. But that's just the funniest thing. Regardless, okay, like yeah, I do suspect she'll be in there, right? Like it would be, I'd be very surprised if she wasn't in there. Like it just from the in-game story perspective, it's her best friend. It makes sense she'd be in there. And from the outside, like branding perspective, she's the face of the franchise or whatever. Um, but who cares? Whatever. We get a new Sakuna game. And even if it's not rice farming, we're inventing robots. That seems to be the premise of the game. Probably sending them out to do your fighting and stuff like that, which is interesting. I love controlling minions and sending things out. Um, I'm very curious to see how this will play and be. It's in development, so we won't see this for a long while because that's all they said. It's in development. Um, and going back to the other one, I'm guessing season two is probably going to cover this.
Oh, interesting. Maybe. Well, so here's my question. You think that from what you've said, I'm assuming you think this is a sequel rather than a prequel.
Ooh, good point. I mean, regardless, that's the enemy could still cover it, even if it was a
I,
um
yeah, I guess.
prequel.
I would be expecting season two of Sakuna to be a sequel. It's different when it's a game. Like, they're not saying that there's going to be a different anime. Like, if they'd called it a different thing, but they've explicitly called it out as a season two of the anime. Like, I feel like it's going to follow Sakuna.
Uh, okay. All right. I'll run with this. Let me run with this. In which case, that's triple exciting because that means we're getting basically two new entries in Sakuna, right? Like
Yeah.
a new Kokoroa game and a whole new Sakuna adventure.
Hmm.
Um, which I have no idea what that means because the anime covered the entirety of the game. So, it will be totally open where that could go. Um, yeah. Um, that's uh
So
that's a
the game that we're probably not
exciting.
going, you did notice who's making it, right?
Yeah, I saw that. And
Godzilla people.
that yeah, yeah. Um Exceed Games, which is
Well, no, Xseed aren't making that one. So Xseed are
wait.
publishing.
Oh, sorry, the,
No,
the
right.
mobile game.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so
Oh,
we've
yeah.
gotten mixed up. We've gotten
Oh,
mixed up. We've
yes.
gotten mixed up. Xseed
Sorry.
aren't
Yes.
making
Okay.
any of these games. Xseed are publishing The
Oh,
Sakuna sequel slash prequel. The mobile
okay.
game that we probably won't get is being made by Toho, as in the Godzilla company.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. Okay, like I don't know what that game could compromise at all, but this means a
No idea.
Sakuna Godzilla crossover DLC is in the realm of possibility now. That's all I have to say. Uh
Yep.
Sakuna of Rice and Rodan. This is all so exciting, right? Because holy mackerel, we just went from Sakuna being a great game series, whatever, but kind of that's it to oh my goodness, we have a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Um, I am eating well right now. It is wild that Toho is doing the mobile game. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for that anime. Who knows? I wonder. Okay, you know what? We might get an English dub of season one now. If they're pushing it this much, we might just get an English dub. Here's
I
hoping.
yeah, I would be surprised if they never did it because like they have a voice actor set, right? And especially
Yeah,
if they do
I
end up
agree.
using those voice actors for the game, like they could do that at the same time. You know, voice
Yep,
acting in a game, if they have a story, could come quite early in the game's development. Um,
true.
so they could tie those two things in together and reduce their costs.
Yeah. Um. Oh man, I just can't wait. Like we don't have any dates for anything, so I don't expect this until at least 2026, maybe
Well,
something.
yeah, this is the
Uh,
thing. These things, when a game is really announced as in development, it's somewhere between 2 years and 10.
Exactly.
And we'll find
Oh,
out eventually.
eventually. Yeah, like so the Sakuna book is not the same title as the new game. So um the yeah, Kokoro book or whatever. It's so I expect it to be a different story entirely.
We also have, speaking of Japanese games with animes, Farmagia, who they had already announced their anime, but we now have a trailer for it and a date. It's airing in Japan on the 10th of January. And the English website says coming soon. So whether that's just sub, whether that's dub, I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, the English site saying coming soon means something's coming. I wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
surprised if they did the same thing as Sakuna and we kind of get it like a month later on
Sure.
Crunchyroll. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
that's very likely. Oh my gosh. Are you excited for Sony to own Crunchyroll? Just reminded because you heard about that, right? The big merger or
Yeah,
whatever. They're looking to buy
yeah.
that group. Crunchyroll's part of that. So good times. Um, but uh, but I digress. Going back to the anime, um, it's it looks good. So the I don't know the exact studio or whatever, but they've got Mikima, who is again the mangaka that they hired to work on Farmagia's art style and whatnot. Um, they're and his works have been translated into several pretty successful and large anime. Um, so you know the art style is still retained. I don't know if it's the same sort of studios that worked on his stuff that is making this, but my expectations are high for this. I imagine this will be pretty beefy and substantial. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
The studio is Bridge, and they have
Okay.
done a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff and
Okay.
some Card Fight Vanguard stuff.
Okay.
Um, they don't seem to be one of the
Okay.
like super big ones, but yeah,
Yeah.
they've been around since 2007.
Okay.
And
So
they've got
they've
quite a lot
they've been
under their belt.
okay. They've done enough to please uh marketers and they've worked with franchises, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, okay, I can stay confident this will be
yeah.
this will do the game justice at the release. Let's say that, right?
Yeah, I
I've
feel like
yet
the
to play the
Yu-Gi-Oh stuff
game.
is probably the biggest thing they've
Yeah,
done. Although a lot of
right.
having looking at it, actually rewatching it, a lot of the stuff is oh no, that's sources. I was looking at going, a lot of these things say manga, but no, that was they said source. They have done a few adaptations from video games as well. So it's not like they've never done that.
Yep.
In fact,
Oh
their
my
third
God.
one they ever did in 2013 was a video game adaptation.
Oh,
Devil
well, that's
Survivor
cool.
2
Huh. Okay, that's interesting.
is based on a Nintendo DS game.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think that's part of the SMT, like a spin-off series or something like that. I could be totally wrong. But
What?
no, that I think it's Devil Summoner. God
A Shin
darn it.
Shin Mega Tensei, or however you pronounce.
Yeah.
How
Oh
many
my gosh.
spin-offs does that series have?
Look, you know, who cares? Because Persona already has passed it in no or passed it in numbers.
Yeah, but
Like
did they
they hit
not? Did they
Persona
not
5
announce
before
another?
SMT 5.
Did they not just do another spin-off? That the new what's the new
Yes.
spin-off they did?
Well, it's okay. So
Metaphor
metaphor,
Refantasio or whatever it's
Re
called.
Fantasia. Yeah. Okay.
Stupid
So
name. Hate that name.
yeah.
Really bad name.
What they yeah, you know what? That's fine. I don't blame you. Okay. I will say Metaphor is not a spin-off because or it's just a new franchise, right? The original
Okay.
Persona had it was the thing with the subtitle, right? It was Shin Megami Tensei Persona or whatever, right? It was very explicitly a branching off the
Yes.
SMT series. So so yeah, that so yeah,
You're
Metaphor
right. You're
is
right. It
the new
is.
franchise.
It is an Atlas game. Devil Survivor
Yep.
2. You're right.
There you go. There you go. See,
Look at you.
I
Look
was
at you with
totally
these this deep knowledge of random
uh,
games.
Al, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge weeb. Point blank. Oh my God.
My word.
Speaking of weebs, I'm looking at the Farmagia. So there's like it looks like a mid cast or there's like four primary cast members. Man, so if you go back and look at Mishima's other works, he has these exact same four characters in all of his other works. He just changes the hair, but the faces, the builds, they're all the same. Oh, glorious Nippon. What would I do without you?
The first Devil Survivor game was actually called Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor. So
Oh, I was right.
there you
Yeah.
go. Oh, and
Oh,
the second one also had the Shin Mega Tensei start to the title as well. That's interesting.
well, there you go.
Um,
Mm. All right. Look at all these wonderful SMT spin-offs. Formaggio is not one of them, but it could be.
Atlas have done just an insane number of games. Like I cannot
It
even
really is.
that
Like,
list. Like sure, they've been going since 1987.
yeah,
Did you know that? Their first game was
I,
1987. But
I didn't know that, but that makes sense. I
but
mean, the
like
early Persona was pretty early. Or first SMT, sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
looking at
but
this list and I think there's over 100 games on this list.
I believe it. And you know what the crazy part is? We're not talking, janky mobile games. We're not talking uh quick and dirty things. These games are massive. Like
Yeah, well,
I don't know if you
they had done like 30 before mobile games even existed.
yes. Yes, and these games are massive. You're right. Atlas is insane. Holy moly. Yeah, because their games like their flagship RPGs or whatever. They're easy 100 hours. Easy. Um Wild to think about the
Sorry,
volume.
sorry, my
Yeah.
numbers were way off. They did 40 before Pokemon even existed.
Sick. Sick. Oh my goodness.
And then they did another 40 between between
Has
Pokemon
Atlas done a
existing
farming
and
game yet?
that's a good question. I wouldn't be
Because
surprised if
boy,
something
could they.
exists in here because there's so many games.
They got look, I don't know if you've played them, but SMTs are monster collectors, so like,
Yeah.
it's not that far off to get me an SMT farming game or something. Um
I think there might be close to like there might be over 200 there
Metaphor
might actually be over 200 games in this list.
Jesus. Metaphor Reformagia.
Like I'm not even joking. So if I do a control F of to try and figure out how many there are on this list, I come up with
Oh,
232 lines on this, but that includes
oh,
maybe about 30 references. I
sick.
think there's over 200 games on this list.
Yeah. And you know what? I just thought something like I'm making the jokes about the farming game, but it's not entirely off the table. I don't know if you know this. The Persona games have dancing rhythm spin-offs and a fighter in there somewhere.
Oh, you're gonna love this. So I Googled how many games have Atlas made, and you know Google
Yeah.
now have this AI overview at the top.
Ugh,
Do you want to
that's
know what
awful,
it
but yes.
says? Do you want to know what it says?
I don't too many to count,
Atlas has made many games.
so I wasn't wrong.
Many games, really?
Yep.
That is
Oh,
just amazing. Like, I cannot, that is
definitely,
so much better than any parody you can make of AI.
definitely more A than I. Oh, good times. Anime. Be excited for anime. Oh man, we got at least two more anime episodes of THS lined up down the line.
Now
Oh
that we're done with
boy.
the anime section of the podcast, now it's on to the new games.
Okay, is one of them an anime?
So, no. So, the first game I should note is not a cottagecore game. So this is not something this is almost certainly not something we're going to cover on the podcast.
Ah,
However,
so it's a roguelike.
yes, of course it is. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's made by Snoozy Kazoo, who you might know as the developer of Turnip Boy games. So I just felt like
Oh,
because we've talked about both Turnip Boy games, I felt like we should talk about this just this is something that exists. You might find it
Turnip,
interesting if you liked the idea of those games as well.
Turnip Boy feels like the antithesis of cottagecore. Cottagecore is all
So
about cozy
right,
vibes, and
right,
Turnip Boy is
okay.
about unhinged
I mean,
chaos.
do you want the reasoning behind why I covered Turnip Boy? Because I can do the reasoning of why we covered
It's a vegetable.
so
That
no,
seems
it's
pretty
not.
simple.
That's not why. So the first Turnip Boy game, when I first saw anything about it, I saw, oh, here's Turnip Boy. Okay, cool. And then he goes around, and the first trailer started off with him going and watering something, and he got the sword. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It looks like you're growing weapons. That feels very farming. That's a farming game. We can cover this. Now it turns out that's only something you ever do once, right at
Yep.
the very start of the game. I maybe covered it under false pretenses. And then the second game, which is even less a farming game because you don't even do it once, and even less cottagecore because it is so fast paced and stressful. I don't know. I just wanted to cover it because I found it interesting.
I mean, we'd already done the first one, so why not? Also, it's a roguelike, so that puts it in the running for real.
Yeah, this game exists. It's called Hobnobbers. Um, they say pillage them all with your friends, fight murderous pixies, and worship a divorcee lady goddess. Hobnobbers is a
Oh,
fast-paced 3D platformer where you and your crew of mischievous gnomish critters storm through multi-dimensional outlets and fight pixies who seek to harvest you for yummy snacks. Raid the shops and stuff shinies in your hat before the portal closes, or risk being stranded in a whimsical capitalist hellscape. Deliver your loot to Lady Goddess, an enigmatic figure trying to get revenge on her ex husband. Trade the items you
sick.
recover for cosmetic upgrades, aka drip. Or if you fail, get turned into
Yeah.
stew.
Oh, why don't they just call it Riznobbers? Okay. So the game actually looks very entertaining, I will say. First of all, it's 3D, right? Departure from Turnip Boy.
Mm-hmm.
We're full 3D polygons and whatnot. Um, but it's very dynamic, chaotic gameplay, as the description accurately says. You're running around stealing stuff in a mall while you're being chased by, I guess those are pixies. They're just little yellow dudes with uh, spiked batons that are trying to clobber you. It looks like. There is the four-player like co-op thing looks pretty entertaining. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of physics based e. if a little bit. So a lot of the stuff moves. It's definitely whimsical. It's chaotic. Very very Turnip Boy in that sense. I'm excited to see what they'll do with it. No date yet. Looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks interesting. I don't know if I'll play it or not because it's a lot of things that stress me out about games. But there you go. If you've been interested in games that Snoozy Kazoo make, here's another one for you.
Up to 8 player online co-op. I like their so on the Steam page they have a list, a game containing the following with their highlights: a whimsical multi-loot, evil pixies to kill and be killed by, up to 8 player online co-op, in-game cosmetics, rats as its own bullet point, a lady goddess you can impress, excuse me, a lady goddess you can impress, with some kind of it looks like an emoji of the bird guy blushing, and the ability to be thrown into the stew by said lady goddess. Okay, yeah, all right, there you go. If you wanted to be thrown into stew, here you go.
This is definitely not going to have weird people playing it. Um, Not saying everybody who plays it is weird. I'm just saying there are definitely going to be people who play this just to be thrown into stew by a goddess. Um, Kevin. Um,
Look, I was about to say it's the new updated 2024 version of Step on Me. Throw me into the stew.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is the thing. Um, Moving on in this family-friendly podcast, the final piece of news is the other new game that we have, which is Desktop Cat Cafe.
Boy, what a juxtaposition here.
Build your dream cat cafe in this tiny, cozy management sim that lives at the bottom of your screen. Unlock exciting new recipes, decorate your space with our wide variety of goodies, and hire cute staff to take care of the cafe while you're doing other things. Which version of cute do they talk about when they say cute cat? Is it oh cute or is it ooh
Don't
cute?
you want the answer? I'm scared to find out. I don't know.
Well,
Good.
I think everything I see in a screenshot is a cat. So I'm guessing
It
it's
does
oh
and
cute.
and it doesn't
No,
answer
no,
anything.
no, stop. So, I guess this is the fourth in our trilogy of on screen at bottom of your screen games.
Yeah.
This one,
Okay, so
interestingly,
all
is
joking aside, it
3D.
is very cute, as in like cuddly animal little kitties cute. They're even like are these ghost cats? Or no, wait, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's not ghost cats. Um I'm go ahead now. What were we gonna say?
No, I was just laughing at you talking about ghost cat. Ghost cats. Oh wait, no, not ghost cats. What is that?
They're
I
like
think, I
transparent
think,
cats.
I think this is a build mode thing.
Yeah,
Because if you look,
probably that's what
everyone
it
that
looks
has the
like.
ghost cats, they've got a
It has
menu
the
up with
menu.
items.
Yeah, yeah,
What I
you're right.
find most interesting about this is that it's a departure from the other bottom of your screen games that we've seen in that it's 3D.
Yeah, okay.
So
So
instead of just being like a grid where your person walks, it's more kind of like pushed down and into the screen.
yeah, so think of it as your screen as like the sky background. That's probably the way
Yeah,
I'd describe it.
that is a good
Um,
way of describing it. Yeah.
it is okay. All right. First of all, I'm not particularly fond of these desktop idle games or whatever because
Fair. Totally
just like
fair.
I'm not a I'm not that kind of multitasking person. I like to focus on whatever I'm doing. So obviously that's a very me thing. I know this has a lot of appeal for other people, and that's great for them. But one thing I will say, this looks like it's taking up a lot of real estate on your screen. Like
Especially with the
some,
trees that extend up really high.
yeah, some screenshots, it's almost like a third of the screen.
Yeah.
Uh, that's
Yeah.
a lot of space. I um, I'm just trying to think how is the other stuff supposedly running on your screen, because I
Well,
noticed on all the screenshots that it's either like just a blank menu or
yeah.
like just some photos in the background.
Yeah.
How do you
There's one screenshot where the tree extends to the top of the screen.
Oh, sick. You know what? You know what? I'm kind of down for that actually. Give me one of these games, but the more you build it up, the more it takes over of your screen. and so it just starts taking over your attention. Oh, I like that. That's a good. I like that premise. Let's do that. Oh, um. So I will say, like, obviously, Cat Cafe is a crowded space in the gaming world, right? But doing the desktop angle, that is something novel. And I do like the graphics, the visuals, they're cute. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
there we go. For people who enjoy this stuff, I think it looks nice. Like I said, I'm probably not gonna get it because this is I would just rather a full version of this game or whatever. But good for you folks who like this stuff. This looks fun.
All right, that's all the news. I
All
know we're
right.
in. We're now going to talk about Balatro, for it is a game that has taken over the world.
It really it's taken over my world for sure. But yeah, kind of has taken over the world. Up for game of the year. Woo!
Which, by the way, I'm just going to say weird. Weird decision. Like, I understand why people like this game, right? And I don't hate the game. Let's start off like that. I think it is a very well designed game, but calling this game of the year is a wild take to me. Like, it's
Well,
it's
I mean,
simpler poker. It's one
yeah, like
person poker. Like, I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there is something to be said about a game's impact, right? Uh, I'll point out to Minecraft, let's say, right? Like Minecraft is a game of the year, whatever. It's a top game of whatever, right? Um, there's other games that have maybe done the formula better and and stuff like that. They've iterated or whatever. But just because of the influence, like Minecraft still stands out on top, right? So there is
I,
something
I
to be
disagree
said
with
about that.
I disagree with your premise.
Okay.
I I think that Balatro is the best version of this game.
Okay.
I don't think Minecraft is the best version of the game that it could be. I do
Mm-hmm.
think that both of them are obviously very popular. I think my
Yeah.
issue is it is both shallow and complicated at the same time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it is shallow in so much as it is a very simple concept.
It's straightforward. It's a simple concept. You're right, but it
There
it there are
are
many options and ways to go.
so many options and ways to go. I accept that. So I'm not trying to say like as a game it is entirely shallow, but
Yeah.
I feel like once you've figured out what the game wants from you, there's nowhere else to go other than just completing all
Sure.
the collections just for the sake of it.
Sure. Um, yeah, you know what? That's very fair. Um, like, yeah, you're right. Okay, going like back to thinking back to the game of the year thing. I mean, the second thing I was going to say though is that it's all nonsense anyways, right? Because especially
Yeah.
the game awards like trademarked, like it's just Jeff Keighley doing whatever, and it's all a bunch of nonsense, right? But there is no denying this game has had an impact this year, right? It's a standout name. It's made a lot of money, and a lot of people are playing it. I've spent a lot of time on it. Um, but you know what? Let's say a listener has not familiar with Balatro. Let's just go over it real quick, right? So the game is, as Al said, it is essentially single player poker. You're trying to create a poker hand, right? The standard 52 playing card deck. Full house, two pairs, three of a kind, all those hands that you see in poker, and they give you an amount of points that correspond to the card you use that correspond both to the type of hand you used and the actual cards the rank of the cards or whatever, right? So that's the base premise. Which is, as Al said, pretty simple and straightforward because it's just building off the very well established game of poker.
Mhm.
Um,
And I think it does.
but
I think
Mhm.
it does the start up till winning your first round very well. I think the curve, the difficulty curve, and the
Hmm.
improvements on how you understand the game, I think, work really well up to that point. Sorry, continue what you were
Sure.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. But they're the the reality of the game, the thing that makes the game are what they call the jokers. So, obviously jokers aren't really used in poker. And here they're not even just a joker, they are just essentially modifiers. They're called jokers, but they are a variety of cards that you can, at least standard, you can have up to five of them, and they can have all sorts of wild and different effects. And there are tons of these different cards that you can use, right? You can have stuff that gives you extra points depending on if, like, what kind of suit of cards you use, what type of hands you use, right? There's ones that will put things things wildly, like you can now play straights or flushes with four cards, or you can skip a gap when playing straights. You can get more points based on the amount of money you have. That, yeah, right. That's what the other big thing, right? Because so there is a shop after you finish a round, you get a certain amount of prize money based on your score, how many hands you have left, yada yada, and you can spend that in the shop, which is where you have all your jokers. You have what they call vouchers, which are long-term modifiers that affect your whole run, as they call it. There is what they call tarot cards, which generally change the individual cards, right? Like some cards will have a increase what's called the multiplier for your score, give you more chips or points. Also change the suit of them or whatever, all sorts of things, right? There's the planet cards, which improve the base score of each hand, right? Like you buy Saturn and you get your straights are a higher scored thing, or like the base score for all straights will be higher. And the spectral cards, which are kind of weird and all over the place, they can be very powerful but have very high costs too. Um, and so yeah, so that is the kind of the gist of the game. You're modifying your poker, your 52 playing card deck to get as high as possible scoring hands. Because for every round you're given a score and you have to beat that, surpass that score to move on to the next one. Um, okay, kind of crash course there on Balatro, but that's how the game plays, and I personally consider it very addictive. Okay, now let's talk about into our individual experiences. How much Balatro have you played out?
So I have played. I guess I can probably bring it up, right? Because I played it on my iPad, so I can look in screen time and it can tell me. Because I was just about to give you like a vague idea of what I've played. I've completed the game. Like I've completed a run once, but I spent a
Okay.
long time. Like you won your first run after like a day or something stupid,
Like
whereas
three, I think
whereas
it was like 3 days, but yes.
I was not that good. So let's have a look. Is there a way I can? I feel like there is meant to be a way you can just see what you've played on it. Oh, see all app activity. Here we are. So I need to go back to the last time I played Balatro to click on it and see my total
I'm looking on
playtime.
mine. I don't know if I see I play on mobile to be clear, because this is like on everything now. It came out on Steam first, I believe.
It did,
But
yeah, it
it
did.
is perfectly suited for mobile. Because it's just very clean, very straightforward screens, right? You have your poker hand in the shop. There's like three screens in the whole game, and it all fits nicely on the mobile. So, it's not anything that's running intense or anything, right? There's very little in terms of animation or whatnot. So it's a perfect mobile game. It's probably my patio or my primary one at this point. Um,
Yeah, I
I
haven't I haven't played it in a few weeks. Basically, when I did my one successful run, I was like, I'm done.
mhm,
That's me. I'm finished.
okay,
I think I've probably put about 10 hours into it.
okay. I don't see how many hours I see on mine, but it's a lot. I could tell you. I could tell you some of my stats. Geez, like I have my collection's apparently at 78%. I didn't know it
Oh
was
my
that high. Holy
word,
moly.
that's wild. Let's see what mine is because mine I don't think is anywhere near that.
My highest hand was 1,300,000 and some change.
Where's the
I've done
percentage? How are you seeing the percentage?
So there's a if I go to options, you can see stats.
Stats. I see. Okay, so my collection is apparently at 67%. That's interesting. That's higher than I expected.
Hmm. Well,
My
I think it's like because like a lot of like the planet and the tarot cards, there's no limit on them you
That's
can use,
true.
right? Like I imagine that's a good
Yeah.
chunk that fills up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I think most of the
Um,
ones I'm still missing are jokers.
I mean, naturally, right? And
I've
there's a
got
lot of
all of the
jokers
tarot
to unlock.
cards, all of the tarot
Uh-huh.
cards, and all bar three of the planet and spectral cards. So, yeah, I'm missing 60 jokers. I think that's most of it.
Mm,
I have
yeah, let's see. I'm at 100 out of 100, 107 out of 150 jokers.
nice.
I've used all the vouchers, all the tarot. I've only used nine of the 12 planet cards and
Well,
only
that's because
nine of the 18 spectral cards.
you're focusing on the, specific things like who's ever going to upgrade
The royal
Royal
flush.
Flush. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, you're right.
Like
You're
I don't
super right.
I've put about ten hours into this game and I've never had a Royal Flush. So
I think I
it's
had one or two royal flushes in all my times. I mean, obviously, it's like that's the king, the top of the mountain, right? Like, yeah, it makes sense. You're right. So yeah, no, I'm not buying the royal flush planet. Yeah, let's see. 107 out of 150 jokers. I have one more deck to unlock. Which is pretty wild. I'm on like the fifth difficulty out of like six or seven, I think. Um, yeah, so I put a lot of time into this game, man. So okay, let's talk about your experience in Tears is a little more limited. Like, what did you like about the game?
so I think the overall, the game loop is fun, right? Like building up a deck and jokers to do these wild combinations is fun. Like that in and of itself is fun.
Right.
I really like that, especially like the first couple of times you do it, you're learning all these new things and you're figuring out all these new
Hmm.
jokers, and you're like, oh, that's a really fun one. I can do this and that, and figuring out these different things to make combinations is really fun. Um,
Hmm. Right.
and yeah, I had a lot of fun the first couple of times. My real problem came with, and this is such a stupid thing to say, but when I first died and I realized it was a one and done, now you're back to the beginning, I just felt that
Yeah.
dread that I do when I realize something's a wrong. And you're like, oh no. And you're
Oh
like,
no, they tricked me again.
this is, so here's the thing, right? Like, I understand that it's a roguelite, and people are like, oh, well, how did you not know that that's what would happen? And I'm like, well, because that's not every roguelite has the exact same reset point, right?
Sure.
Like th- the point of a roguelite is that at some point you'll reset. And I wasn't assuming that as the first hand where you don't manage to get the points, that's it. Or sorry, not the first hand, the
Hmm.
first blind that you're not able to get
Right.
to the total amount. That's it. There's no room for recovery. And that it's just my usual thing of like just like dread of like, oh great, now I am reset and everything I've just done is wasted and useless and doesn't matter. And yes, sure, I've learned some stuff and I can do better next time, but it's just like that frustration always gets to me every time. Um however, I kept going. I obviously enjoyed it enough to keep going, to the point where I did win a round. And I was like, I think after a while, I got on to blinds eight, blind, not blind, was it? Uh, the level eight, whatever they call it. There's a word.
The ante or
And yeah,
anti
anti, yeah,
ante.
the anti eight, and failed on the second last one. And I was like, I was so close. I need to do this. I feel like I'm so close
Ah,
that I
yeah.
need to have this done. I was like, so I will keep going
Yeah.
until I've won one, and then we'll see how I feel. And once I won one, I was like, I now have no enthusiasm to do this again, because I get that there are lots of other strategies you can be doing, but also, why would I not just do things that I know work?
Right, right.
Like
Yeah, no,
I
that
could
that's
run on I could do another run and do a completely different strategy, but if I fail, I'll just be like,
yep.
ugh, I should have just done something different. And I don't particularly
Hmm.
find that fun.
Yeah. You know what? That's fair, right? Like, I will say probably the biggest, I don't know what to call it, weakness or draw, let's say drawback of the design, right? Like, is I think compared to other roguelikes, this one you have a lot less control. It's a lot more
Mhm.
random and
Oh, for sure, for sure. You can deal with that.
variables that,
You can deal with that in doing things that get you lots of money, so you just keep resetting. But yeah, it's
sure,
still a
sure.
lot of randomization there, and it's like, you know,
Right,
let's take
right,
compare it to Hades, right, which is an action
right.
game.
That's what I was about
You're
to do.
you're first of all, you're unlocking things between runs to make yourself more powerful in the next run. So it's not like everything disappears. In this game, the only thing that you have between games is your brain and what you've learned. And
Very well. Yeah, I guess the closest thing is you can unlock different decks, right? There's some
sure,
with
okay,
give you
fine.
bonus money, some
Yeah, they don't
that are adjusted,
fundamentally
but
change it. They do not
you're right.
fundamentally change
Yes.
it.
Right.
Um,
It doesn't
wait,
build up. Let's say
no,
that. It gives you different
it,
options, but
the
it doesn't
decks
build up.
the decks generally aren't more powerful. The decks are generally different challenges, right?
Sure.
Whereas
Yeah,
in
that's fair.
Hades, you are gaining new abilities and you're gaining new weapons and you're becoming more powerful in that way. And a lot of it is to do with your skill. Yes, there is a little bit of randomization in what upgrades you can get during the run,
Right.
but if you are good at it, you could get through any run, right? Whereas in
You don't
this,
even need those upgrades. Just don't
exactly.
get hit.
Exactly. Whereas, well, no, you that's an absolutely right. Like the
No, no, I know. I'm joking, but yes, that
absolutely
is true,
right.
right? Like there are people who could do that, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
They're good enough.
Whereas in Balatro, you are 100% relying on good jokers coming up. Not only that, but you're relying on good ones that work with what you've already chosen.
Yep.
Because if you make a
And your
bad choice at the
hands. Yep.
beginning and then your future
Hmm.
stuff never comes up, you are stuffed. And yeah, people
Yep.
who love the game are going to argue, yeah, but you just need to deal with that. You just need to have other ways. You just need to do better strategies. And you're like, well, in that case, all I'm going to do is focus on building up high card and pair as high as possible. But that's not fun, is it? That's not a fun
Yeah,
strategy. Yes,
you are super right.
there are unbeatable strategies that will always get you through, but then why are you just doing the same thing over and over again? Is not the fun of it doing new strategies and seeing if you can do it? And then you are fully relying on the randomization of what's going to be chosen next. And that I don't
Yep.
like. That's not fun.
Yep. I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, I can see your frustration with that, right? Going back to Hades, right? All the upgrades, even like, so there's the different deities, right? And the different types of upgrades. And, the more you get of one, the more they work well together and so on and so forth. But let's say every single upgrade you got was a different kind. You're still getting a boost, right? It's still overall a net positive, right? Maybe not ideal, but it can be used to benefit you in Balatro, there are some jokers that just don't benefit you, or at least on the current run you have, right? Like you can have a group of five jokers that are totally random, and you're just totally screwed because they don't all help you or help you enough, right? And some work really well together, but unless you get to the two or three that run really well together, um, yeah, they might not be that great separate. Um, and yeah, I get and that is I think one of the difficulties of this game compared to other roguelikes. Just it is a bit more limited. What you get in the run is a lot more limiting than other games that are more skill based or whatever. Because those blinds, especially in later difficulties, like those numbers, blind get really high. So like
Yeah.
you can't just play good hands and win. You need good jokers to win. And so you can just completely be out of luck and not even get these like almost any jokers on a run, right? Because the shop will not always sell jokers. You get the planets and the tarots or whatever. Um, and so yeah, no, I can absolutely understand where you're coming from. Um, Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Okay, out of the runs you did, what are some of your favorite strategies that came to be or jokers that were memorable or whatever?
Yeah, I think the the thing I found most uh, reliable was just building up like pair and or or straight or flush, and then
Right.
the straight or flush one obviously relied on you getting the one that allows you to do it with four cards, and then
Or
also
have the
have
gaps.
gaps in straights. Yeah, I found that one was quite a good one. The
Yeah, that's probably one of the best in the game in my opinion. It's so good.
Yeah,
Um,
but also just the building up pair was because you're almost always going to get a pair, and you can get that number up really high, especially
mhm.
if you then get the one that adds um all cards that you play count. So you play a pair plus
Oh,
three
that
other
one's
ones.
great. Hmm.
Was good fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I think most of my success, or the let's say the runs I enjoy the most and I've been successful with, have been very like focused on straights. Like you said, I like those where you can get the gaps or the just make a metaphor, and because straights and flushes are pretty valuable, from their base, right? So if you can build that, you're already on a solid foundation. And oh, you know what? And we should point out, right? Like not everything build or is upgraded at an equal rate, right? Like pairs and high cars, the simple ones, they every upgrade you get is not as big of an upgrade as say for the straights. When you buy the whatever Mercury, I think it is for a high card, it only increases the multiplier by like one. But if you increase your straight, it increases the multiplier by like two or three. Um, so like I think the game in some ways does incentivize you to try to focus on those higher, rare or those more difficult hands to form. But yeah, I also like strategies that focused on money. Right, there's a card called I forget what it's called. It's a picture of a bull. It's a Joker with a bull on it, and you get like the amount of money you have, you get double that number of chips for every hand you play. So if I have $50, I get 100 chips on every hand I play. So you can build that up real high. Like I can go to $100 or whatever, and I'll get 200 chips every hand I play, plus everything else going on. Um, let's see. Did you ever see the Blueprint Joker?
I don't. I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever found
Hmm.
it in.
Okay.
Remind me what that one does.
That one. Okay, this one might actually be the best one because what it does, it copies another Joker in your set. It'll copy the one to the
Right.
right.
Okay.
So if you have another Joker that's say doubling your score or whatever, and you put the Blueprint Joker, it'll double that double. It'll go times four. So you can start scaling ridiculously high.
Yeah.
It's quite fun. And something interesting about Balatro, one of the I think the finer points that might not be at first easily visible is that the order you play things and you arrange your cards actually can have a big
Yes. Yeah.
influence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I realized that after a couple. I'm like, oh wait, no, you have to have the plus mult before the times
Uh,
mult because otherwise your
mm-hmm.
times mult is going to be really like if you have times two and then plus 10. If you put the
Yep.
times two first, it's going to go to two and then add on 10.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have the plus 10, it's going to go to 10 and then to 20, right? You've really got to think the
Mm-hmm.
maths through on these things. There's
Yep.
also, I saw one joke, I never saw it in my run through, but I saw it on a YouTube video, which is one where takes, it turns the chips and malt both into the same number, which is the total of them divided by two. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if you just get the chips up really, really high, it will then take half of that and put it in the malt, and you suddenly get really high numbers that way.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that Joker. I think there's a
Yeah.
deck that does something similar,
No, there's a
but
joke.
that
Yeah,
sounds really good.
There's a Joker that does that.
Ooh, that sounds
Um,
good.
so yeah,
I don't think I've seen that one. Um, oh man, that sounds great.
yeah, because then
So
you just want to get all the stone cards in that case, right? Like plus 50 for each one.
yeah, ooh, that's clever. I know obviously I stay away from the stones generally speaking,
In
but that's
general,
pretty
yeah.
good. I like that.
In general.
Yeah. Um, I I've found one legend Joker in all my playthroughs. Um, and what it did, it disabled the boss blind, just completely
Oh
negated it,
wow.
the
Wow.
effect. So it just was a regular blind. Obviously lived up to that legend rarity, right? Like how
Yeah.
powerful that was. Um, so yeah, that was fun. Did you Oh, uh, so like we said, there's a handful of different decks, right? One that'll give you extra hand to play, and one extra discard. I think you said you won with the one that gives you extra money at the beginning, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that so the deck I was using all the time since I unlocked it was the yellow deck, I think. Is it? Let me just double
Mm-hmm.
check if that's the right one. No, not the yellow deck, the green deck. And that one gives
Okay.
you, instead of giving you interest, you get two
Uh-huh.
dollars per remaining hand and $1 per remaining discard.
That
Um,
is a good one.
I found early on you get a lot more money that way because you don't have you're trying to spend all your money because you need stuff. So early
Yeah.
on you get no interest. Whereas this
Yep.
way you can quite often have, especially, in the second round, you can quite often have uh you know only one hand that you need to use and no discards, and then you suddenly get another
Yep.
$10. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that. That is, I think, one of the challenges, especially so you only beat the run once, but when you beat them, you unlock something called stakes, which is basically another difficulty modifier on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And every time you beat a stake, you unlock a new one. It's the levels of difficulty, right? Um, and one of the very early stakes, I can't remember if it's the first or second one, gives you basically you stop earning the small blind, the first blind of each ante gives you
Yeah,
only, it doesn't give you
that is
prize
the
money.
first. That's the first one you
Yeah,
unlock. Yeah.
yeah, you don't get prize money. You only get from hands you have and
Yeah.
interest, right? So it can be really painful to start after that first difficulty because the thing about the stakes, they stack up on top of each other. If you go past that first difficulty, you still have to deal with that. Um,
Yeah.
so especially on later difficulties, early money is really important because you want to buy a good voucher or do you want to buy a joker?
Yeah.
You
Well,
have to
that's the thing.
pick.
And if you don't get money quickly, you're dying in your first boss blind.
Yep.
Right? Like
Or yep.
if you don't have a single
I think
joker by that point, unless you get a straight or a flush, you're dead.
mm, yeah, pretty much. Which
Uh,
actually leads me to my deck of choice. I think it's called the orange deck. Um, so what it does, it removes all the face cards from the deck. You only have a 40 card deck, not a 52
oh,
card deck, and only the numbers. You
interesting.
get the aces. So you go ace to 10. Well, and I like it because that makes straights and flushes a lot
Ah,
more consistent.
yeah, yeah. That's a good
Right.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I guess it's also,
And
I don't know if you, but my brain always takes a minute to figure out how to do a straight with face cards. It's like if
yeah,
you sit me down, obviously I can get it, but it's not like
sure.
immediate. I look at a two and three and know they're next to each other. I look at a king and a jack and I'm like, which order did they go in again? Oh yeah, no, they're not next to each other.
Yep.
Especially when you
Yep.
have
You're
the
right
card
about
that
that.
allows you to skip ones, then it becomes even more confusing, and you're like, wait, which
Oh,
cards am I allowed to
yeah.
use right now?
Yeah, can the nine are they next to each other?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I get it. So yeah, so I really like that because it adds a degree of consistency I really like. And when I get those other cards that modify the straights, it's good stuff. Um,
Oh,
but
here's a question for you. In that one, does ace count as high and low or just low?
it counts as I think high because it still counts as 11.
So
Um,
you right, okay. So
but
you can
you
use
can still
both. Right,
well,
that's fine.
right, yeah,
Just
yeah, but you
because
still count.
obviously in your normal deck, you can do either nine jack sorry, 10 jack queen king ace,
Mhm.
or you can do ace two three four five.
Yeah,
And my
yeah.
question was,
Um,
in the
okay.
without it,
Oh,
can you
okay,
do
that's
it
what you mean.
both
Then
ways as well
it's
without the
only
face
low.
cards? It's
It's
only
only
low
low.
without the face cards.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't do ace 10,
Yeah. Okay.
nine. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it gives you 11 chips, but yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe I haven't been doing it.
Well, I
Oh
guess no.
no.
I mean, now that I think about it, of course that wouldn't make any sense because just because you don't have any face cards doesn't mean they don't
Yeah.
exist. Like presumably
Yeah.
they're like you can get them from booster packs and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely you
Exactly.
can.
So in that
So,
case, my question is pointless.
yeah.
It works in exactly the same way as it would before. It doesn't mean that
Hmm.
those three cards don't exist.
That's correct. Um, so yeah, that's you're right. That is unfortunate that it removes that the high part of it, but I mean, still, going from just to 10 to aces, it makes the straights a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one I'm working with. There are some other good decks I've unlocked that I want to try and probably will because I'm a addict to this game. But but yeah. Oh, in the real downside. So obviously the big downside to the orange deck is I don't get the high chip point scores from all the face cards because they're all +10, right?
Yeah.
So I lose that value. But the real pain is that I can't use the crossover card. I mean, I can use the crossover decks, but I don't see them. I don't get to see Dave or The Witcher or all that stuff because they only affect ace face cards.
That is a great segue because this is the reason that
Yeah.
this is the 100% reason that we are doing this. What are
Yep.
your
There you
favorite
go.
what are your favorite packs on the decks?
Okay. I I'm gonna get heat for this. I can already tell you. Is he lucky? Oh, I don't think I mentioned I have a puppy, people. Hello, everyone. I have a puppy now. Um, I don't know if you just heard him, but anyways, the one just a biter. Ouch. He I like the Among Us deck. Good
Interesting.
old Ambugus. I just something about the I don't know the cartoony nature of it, and the king being the little monster that's eating everything. I think is very enjoyable. Maybe it's because it's so cartoony and goofy as opposed to all the other ones, which try to blend more into I think the regal themes of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I do think it is absolute heresy in the Dave. So hold on, let's go over all of them, right?
Okay, right.
So
So
they're
let's start with the spades. We've oh yeah, just before we
right.
talk about this, what I found really weird and I didn't understand until I actually tried to set this up is they're only for each one is only for a specific uh set what
Suit.
they call
Yeah.
suit, that's the word. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the Stardew
Very
one
weird.
only exists for diamonds. You cannot have it in anything else, which I found super weird.
It is very weird, right? Because I think all of these, well, I don't know all of these games, so maybe I'm wrong, but that's only, you need 9 characters, right? For all, to have all face cards of each suit.
Well,
And that's not terribly hard.
it's not even that you could just have them all the same, right? Because if you look at
Or that, yeah.
if you look at the base ones, they look exactly the same. They're just next to, oh, they don't actually look exactly the same. They look slightly different, but like
Yeah, no, I
only
don't think so.
slightly
Because,
different. Like if you look at them
yeah,
next to each other, you can tell a difference. But if you
yeah,
don't, like especially as they've got a nice accessibility setting to add high
yeah,
contrast cards, which makes them all
yeah,
different colors. So it makes
yeah.
the spades black, the hearts red, the clubs
Oh,
blue,
that's nice.
and the diamonds yellow, which makes it so
Yeah.
much easier to see the different suits.
Oh,
Um,
that's really nice. I like it because that sometimes that is, especially on mobile where it's a small screen, right? Sometimes that'll throw me off. The clubs and the spades, they're
yeah,
both like
yeah,
blackish.
exactly,
They could
exactly.
be hard to put to tell apart.
Yeah, as soon
But
as I
you're
learned
right.
about that
Like,
setting, I just turned it on. I'm like, this is makes the life so much easier.
yeah, I don't blame you at all. Um, but but yeah, you know what? You're right. Like they could have just gone with the 3 they picked and applied them to each of the suits. It is very weird that you can't have just a full Stardew Valley deck or whatever, right?
If I want
Especially,
my cards to all look the same, why not? Like it doesn't.
yeah,
It's not like they're
yeah,
fundamentally different in the sets normally.
right. It's all cosmetic. It's very weird, right? And like especially like Stardew, which is a character heavy game or has a lot of popular characters. Why not throw them all off? I mean, so okay, let's go through the
Yeah.
list now because we talked about it. So
So
spades.
we've got The Witcher, which is
Uh-huh.
fine. I'm not a Witcher fan. I know you've got, is it Geralt? Is that his name? Geralt?
Yep, Geralt.
I don't know who the other
You've
two are.
got
Oh, is the Joker? Is that the bard that sings
yeah,
the
that's the
song in
bard. I
the?
forget. The
Yeah,
one who sings the good song on the Netflix show.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that one.
I
And
don't
then
know the
the
other
queen is
character.
the I forget her name. It's the love interest, basically, the main
Okay,
primary love
it's
interest, I
fine.
believe.
It's definitely
Yeah.
not the best. I think it ranks lower in mine, mainly because I don't care about The Witcher, and also because it's not really that distinctive.
Yeah, they're very like The Witcher, I mean the art style, right, is very like grounded fantasy or whatever, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's not colorful or really distinctive. I agree with that.
like if that wasn't listed as Witcher, you wouldn't automatically assume it's The Witcher, right?
Maybe not. I think I could tell Geralt, but otherwise, yeah, you're right. The other one
Cyberpunk.
so far, yep, 2077. I don't know Cyberpunk at all, so I don't know its characters at all.
Yeah, I have no idea about these characters either, but I think this the style is a little bit more interesting because obviously it's more
Yep,
cyberpunky, funnily
yep.
enough. So
And
you've got one
okay,
character with a guitar, an electric guitar,
uh-huh.
one with like an is that meant to be like a scroll, but like an electronic scroll or something?
Something like that.
And
I don't
then
know. Or is it a Nintendo Switch? I don't know.
and then the Jack with a gun.
Yep. Yeah, that's fitting. Okay, hold on. Let's take a second because I don't know the characters, but I can tell you who the king is. That's the Keanu Reeves character because he's got the sunglasses.
Oh right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Keanu Reeves in your Balatro deck, automatic win right there. He's got a guitar. He's my king for sure. I'll tell you that.
And then we've got the
um,
Hearts one. We've got your favorite one among us.
yep. You have the little. So it's all the red crewmate, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't pick different colors,
Well, because it's
but
red,
the
because it's Hearts.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so the king is an imposter. It has the monster mouth with the long tongue. The queen is with a queenly crown. I don't know what's going on there. I
I
can't.
think I think
They're
I
popping out of
think
the vent. The vent. They're
oh
popping
yeah,
out of
vent.
the
I was
vent.
gonna say just running, but yeah, yeah, vent. That makes more sense. So
Yeah,
that's
the
interesting because then
Joker
both
or
the
the
king
Jack.
and the queen are imposters.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The queen is an imposter. The Jack is supposedly just a regular crewmate with a little crown and a little mini Among Us pet
Oh yeah,
following them
yeah, yeah,
around, which is
classic,
cute.
classic.
But yeah, the king and queen are imposters. Yes, that's a good catch. That's fun. Um,
Then we have the
let's see.
Binding
Then
of
we have the
Isaac.
Yup, which
I've not played this
the
game either, so I don't know about the characters. Do you?
I don't either. The king has the baby. That's the face of the game. That's all I know. The little baby looking person
I think it's just
with
Isaac,
the
isn't it?
eyes. Is it probably, is that their name? I don't even know.
I think so.
They have a dice. Queen, I can't even tell what the queen is.
I think it's a leg, like a monsterfied leg.
Oh, I guess I was thinking a mushroom, but you might be right. Like it's a stiletto and yeah, the skirt. Yeah, like the lamp from the Christmas story or whatever, but just weird and kind of lumpy. And then the
A
Jack, it's
decapitated
a
dog.
dog. Yep, with a separated head. I don't know what's going on there. Binding of Isaac fans, tell us what on earth all that means. Because I don't know. All right, clubs. First one we got. Okay, this is a fun one. Vampire Survivors. I don't know the cards, the characters in this one that much either. I've never actually played Vampire
I
Survivors
mean,
proper,
does
but
Vampire Survivors
the,
actually have a story? I don't think it does. I
no,
think it's
but it
just
has
run around and shoot,
character.
right?
Yeah, but it has recognizable characters because the first one is Dracula or whatever the Dracula equivalent is. Um, I can't tell. What is the queen? I can't even tell what that is, to be honest. You know what? I should probably look on the internet. Because I can't tell what the queen is at all.
Looks like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Trying to find a list. It might be the Phantom of the Opera thing. And then the Jack is some kind of old man. I don't know what who the old man is. I'm trying to find the list. Let's see here. But until then, let's go to diamonds real quick. Um, oh, sorry, no, I'm skipping over Slay the Spire.
Yeah,
Which actually I
what a
think is a very
failure.
cool. You're not right. I kind
The
of
Queen. Sorry, I've got it here. The Queen depicts Queen Sigma in Vampire
okay.
Survivors.
Queen Sigma?
Queen
Is this the
Sigma is
Sigma? You turn into the Sigma deck?
one
The
of the
Sigma
player
grind set?
one of the playable characters in Vampire Survivor.
Yeah, well, there you go, folks. Um, let's see. Then we have wait, who's the Jack then?
Uh, Poe.
Okay.
That's
I don't know, just some old guy.
yeah.
Sorry, Vampire
He
Survivors
has
fan,
he
hadn't
has
played it.
garlic as apparently his thing.
Oh, that's kind of oh well, that which makes sense for the
Vampire Survivors game.
surviving vampires. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, that's huh. Um,
Yeah, so Slay the Spire.
wait a second. The
Oh,
king depicts the survivors
yeah.
cover art, but the vampire doesn't actually appear. It's incredible. Oh, that's good. I love that. Oh, um, All right, now let's get to the ones we care about. The
You,
truly the most valuable, the
yep.
diamonds. Because
We've
our first
got
one is good
Dave the
old Dave
Diver,
the Diver.
and I can tell you these
Okay.
ones immediately, right?
Well, sure, because they're the three, right? Like,
The three
who
main
else
characters
would they
of the
be
game.
if they didn't pick? Okay, the one thing I both kind of love this and hate this, that Dave is actually the queen, not the king, because Dave is clearly the star, but he's also constantly shortchanged in the game and
Yep.
forced to do nonsense. So it's
Yeah.
kind of fitting he's the queen instead.
Yep.
Um, we have gosh, what are the, oh my gosh, can't remember the names. Oh, Bancho. Bancho is the king, the restaurant owner, our sushi man, and then
Which makes
Cobra
sense
is the
because
Jack.
the whole thing couldn't happen without the sushi chef.
Yeah, and he's clearly the most commanding of all of them, right? Like he's running everything. I mean,
Yeah.
Dave is doing everything, but Bancho's kind of running things. Um, and then lastly at the Jack, we have good old Cobra with a coin because he's Mr. Business Money Man.
Yep.
Dave has his harpoon gun, Bancho has his sushi knife. All what you'd expect. They look stylish. It's they're pixelated in game, so it fits perfectly. They look great. Um,
Yep.
yeah, very ace the strong set there. And then lastly, so what I like about the last set here,
The
um,
Stardew Valley
I
set
think
for
all
listeners who might not
yeah,
actually be paying attention.
yeah, of course, drum roll please. The Stardew Valley set, they actually maintain their characters' colors. Um, so all the shoot, did we talk about Slay the Spire? Did I skip right over? No, I did.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it, but
Yeah,
didn't talk
I
about
don't
the
know the
specifics of the
characters.
cards.
Yeah, I don't know who they are, to be honest. I've never played Slay the Spire, and I don't know um
They look fine.
yeah, one of them's like a dragon thing. That looks cool. Um but yeah, okay, Stardew Valley. So what I was gonna say is all the other cards, they kind of have like a almost monochromatic theme that matches their suit or whatever, right? Stardew Valley kind of maintains their characters' color schemes. Or just, they're just art of the colors. They're not like really decked out or anything. They're just kind of stylized into the card set, which I think makes sense given the importance of the characters in Stardew Valley as a general, like how critical it was to that game's success and whatnot, and what the appeal of it.
Yeah.
Um,
They are
what I don't
more
know is how
they
I
are
feel about the choices, though.
they are more consistently colored if you turn on the high contrast ones. They turn a lot of the
Ah,
colors into the yellow. Um
okay,
I think, yeah, so I
okay,
think this is actually really clever, right? So the king is obviously Lewis, he's the mayor, right? Like it's a similar sort of
sure.
thing. And then of course, who is Lewis's queen? Marnie. I mean, there couldn't be
There you
another option
go.
for queen. If you decide that the king has to be the mayor, then of course Marnie has to be the queen. And then we've got the Jack. The Jack is the interesting choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it makes sense. Um, why have I blanked on his name?
It's
Who's the shop man?
P- Pierre.
Hmm?
That's true. It starts with a P. Oh,
Yeah,
shop owner, man. Gosh darn it! What
Pierre.
some
Yes,
fans we are.
Pierre. Yes, Pierre.
Thank you.
You're correct.
Yes.
Pierre.
Okay.
I think it makes sense because I think quite a few of them the Jack has money relations,
Yeah. Sure.
in some ways. So it makes sense that that would be the case. I think you could make arguments for other things, but I think when you make the decision that king equals mayor, then I
Yeah.
think it all just falls into place. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, money wise, he's probably the highest ranking, right? Um. I say that.
You
No.
could have put what's his name? The oh, why can't I
J for
remember his
Joja.
name? Yeah, the Georgia guy. What's his name?
I don't remember his name either.
Oh, why can I not remember his
uh,
name?
how high was he on our tier list?
Morris, that's his name. I
Morris.
think you could have made an
That
argument
would
for
be funny.
Morris for the Jack, but
I guess so. But
I think
Pierre's the
people
more
would
recognizable, iconic, right?
exactly, and it's not like you're putting on a character we all hate. I think it would be
Yeah.
different if you'd done that.
Yeah.
Then it would have been something to complain about.
Yeah. Um, it Again, I wish they could have done a full deck so we could at least get nine Stardew characters. But the
Yeah,
more I think about it, you probably have to stay away from the romanceables, right? Because you can either include
yeah,
all of them or none of them.
yeah. Why quite
Granted, there's probably enough characters without the romanceables to include for just nine.
good question.
But
Maybe just about.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I
there should be with all the updates and locations and everything. Yeah,
One last point I like about this is that um, Lewis and Marnie are, although they're king and queen, they're also looking away from each other, kind of nodding towards the secrecy of their relationship.
but the flip side are looking at each other because you know how the face cards they have the
Yeah, well,
top
I
and
think
bottom.
that's deliberate, right? So it's like
Yeah.
the standard side is looking away from each other, but the
Hmm.
bottom one, the secret part, is looking at each other.
Hmm.
I think that's
That
very
is pretty
deliberate.
clever. I like how Marnie's holding a chicken. I'll say that. Um, but also, I think we haven't mentioned probably the most important part. In the king on Lewis's, he's holding, I think, a bunch of grapes. On top of that, there is a little Junimo.
It's not a bunch of grapes. It's his underwear.
Oh, it's his underwear. Oh my gosh. Wow. Good job, me. Oh,
Kevin, you just
wow.
call yourself a
I'm
Stardew
tired.
fan.
I'm quitting. I'm
A
done.
bunch of
My career's
grapes.
over.
Maybe it's
I'm
less
canceling
visible because are
myself.
you playing it on a phone?
Yes, I'm looking at a
Yeah.
phone. That's probably why it looks like
Whereas
grapes. But you're right. It's just his
I'm playing it
underwear.
on a tablet, so it's much bigger on my screen.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is just his
A bunch
underpants.
of
Oh my.
grapes.
Which of course that makes sense. Duh. I thought like, oh, is his grapes like his favorite item? No, man. Either way,
And of course,
okay. So you have a Junimo
Marnie's holding a chicken, and Pierre is of course holding a bag of money.
because that's all he cares about.
Oh, absolutely.
Not even his family.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
fun.
But the Junimo showed up. What else should we? What else could we ask for? Um. Well, I mean, all in all, like again, very odd that they split it up by the suits. It is kind of fun though that if you want to make a deck with The Witcher and Stardew Valley and Slay the
I,
Spire and Among Us, you know, you can have all of that. It's kind of weird hodgepodge, but
I would
it would
I
still be nice to have a full deck of Stardew.
I would also even accept not having a full deck of Stardew if we could also like switch which one is which, right? So the fact that Stardew and
Ooh.
Dave the Diver are both on
Hmm.
diamonds means I can't have both of them in one deck.
That's a good point. Yeah, why don't they do that? Like just instead of clicking on okay, which diamond do you want? Say, okay, here's the different crossovers. Okay, yeah, set okay, I want to set Dave the Diver to spades. I'm going to set Among Us to clubs, whatever. You're super right. They should do that. That doesn't seem terribly hard to do. So, Balatro programmer who's listening to us, go fix that right now.
So just final
Uh,
point, what does your deck look like then? Which ones have you chosen for each of the suits?
okay, I've got Witcher, Among Us, I've got Vampire Survivors, and I've got Day. Sorry, Stardew, but I love Dave the Diver.
Okay.
The actual character Day. He makes me laugh. What about you, Al? What's your set?
I have Cyberpunk, Among
Hmm.
Us, Slay the Spire, and Stardew Valley. Obviously, I had to have Stardew Valley. I thought the
Yeah,
Slay the Spire looked more interesting
it
than the.
does. I don't blame you. I just
Obviously, we
like
both chose the Among Us because it's ultimately the best set they have in this game. Um,
yep.
and yeah, as discussed earlier, I just think that The Witcher looks too generic and Cyberpunk is much more
Yeah,
interesting.
that's fair. And also you have Keanu with the guitar, so you know, you win. Um
But I would have liked
all
to be.
right.
I would have probably put in Dave the Diver instead of probably Slay the Spire. I think.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Well, here's hoping. But you know what? Like we just have this, but obviously this game has gotten a lot of success. Here's hoping we'll get to they'll maybe change that and if that happens, it'll be likely because we get more crossovers, which I think is very plausible.
I think we're
Um,
probably going to get more crossovers. Yeah, because they
it's
announced
not a hard
three.
thing to
They
do.
announced four at a time. Yeah, it feels.
Mhm.
Other fun fact about this: Concerned Ape made the art for the Stardew pack himself, which is
Yeah,
a
there you go.
classic Concerned Ape thing to do. Uh, but yeah,
You mean by con- thing for concerned ape to do? You mean everything?
yeah,
He does
exactly,
everything.
exactly. Um, well, great. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me to talk about the most the most cottagecore game in the world, Balatro.
Classic cottagecore.
Where can people find you on the internet?
All right, folks. Find me at Koopa Prez on Twitter or Blue Sky. I'm trying to use Blue Sky more. Find me at Sobriety Square on Twitter. See my art account. I'm trying to get the Blue Sky one going. I have a lot of plans for it. I have not had time. Find me at Rainbow Road Radio, which is at Rainbow Mario Pod on Twitter, but Rainbow Road Radio everywhere else. Again, that's the Mario themed podcast I do with our mutual friend Alex. We just did Bowser's Inside Story. There's a lot of good stuff happening over there in Mario World. We got new DK Land coming. What about you, Al? Where do people find you?
You can find me on most social media as the Scottbot, including my main one, mastodon.scott. But I mean, if there's a social media, you'll probably find me on it now with that. You can find the podcast on Tumblr at THS Pod. I do have accounts on other social media, but I haven't set them up yet. So feel free to follow them, but there won't be anything on them until I've, sorted all that out. The best way to find us though is on our website harvestseason.club, which I'm always keeping up to date with links to things. There's a feedback form on there if you want to send us some feedback. Tell us what your favorite strategy in Balatro is. And you can also find links to everything to do with the podcast, including a link to our patreon.com/thspod, where you can support the podcast and get access to our Slack and bonus episodes of the podcast. I am currently thinking about how it's going to go going forwards, because it's been quite a few years now and I'm wanting to rethink a couple of things about the Patreon, but there's always going to be exciting things for you. There will always
Yeah.
be extra content. There will always be a
Yeah.
place to chat, and we'll see
I
what
mean, the
else comes.
greenhouse and the Slack are a lot of value on their own already. Like the greenhouse, you can go back and listen to like the majority of those episodes. They're still good. They're mostly comments and opinions on all sorts of different things. So go for it.
And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you, Kevin, again for joining me.
Thank you, Al, for having me on.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And until next time.
Hold it out. Given the nature of our episode, I think it's fitting we have a Joker
Oh
sign
no.
us off, no?
Oh, what's happening here?
Well, boys and girls, I hope you've had fun. We've had some tears, we've had some laughs. Tune in next week. Same bat channel, same bat time for another episode that will definitely put a smile on your face. But until then, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Speaking of Japanese games with animes, Farmagia also have their anime coming, and we have a trailer
Okay.
for that.
Okay, 1 second. Hold on. I want to back up. I just want to comment one thing on
Oh,
Sakana real quick. I looked
that
it
was
up.
that was a great segue, and you're just gonna get rid of my great segue.
You know,
Oh,
fine,
that's
fine. Let's go. Let's
no,
continue. I'll bring it
no,
up later.
no. It's fine because I will just put it
I
in the end
killed it.
credits. I will put it in the end
Okay, fine.
credits,
End
and
credits.
people can still hear my fantastic segue, and you can still ruin it. Right? Tell me what you want to tell me.